Today we're taking a closer look at the Windows 10 technical preview running on a Surface Pro 3. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, Daniel Rubino here, Windows Phone Central, and I got my Surface Pro 3 here rocking the Windows 10 Technical Preview, or just Windows Technical Preview as it's actually officially known as, but we all know it's basically Windows 10. And as you can see here, I got it installed and it probably looks very similar to Windows 8.1, which in many ways it is. It depends on how you configure it. Now, if you have a Surface or a tablet device, basically when you install the preview, it's going to depend on its look based if you have the keyboard attached or not. So if the keyboard is attached, it's going to show the desktop system with the new start menu, and if you don't have the keyboard, it just defaults to this. So I want to show you guys this view just for a few moments and how apps look, because I think if you have a Surface, you basically will use it in this mode for most of the time. But I'll also show you what it's like to switch to the new start menu, which is pretty cool as well. Now, what I find real interesting about apps on this is they all run on the desktop in a windowed form. So that's just the way they are. Of course, you can make them full screen, and you can see here, this is basically the same app as I've always run. This is ambient weather, by the way. But as you can see, I have the start menu down here, or the taskbar down here, as well as a bar up there. And that's just the way the apps look now. Now, don't forget, this is a preview, so a lot of this is going to change. For instance, we don't have the full tablet mode enabled on this because it's just not available. Later on, Microsoft's going to introduce Continuum, which is when you attach a keyboard, it can switch to a desktop mode. When you pull off the keyboard, it can switch to a tablet mode automatically. And that's a really cool system. It takes all the guesswork out of there, but that's coming later on. For now, you got to kind of configure it manually, which is why it's a preview and why they actually recommend it mostly for desktop PC users. Anyway, so as you can see though, the app here runs like this. You cannot close apps anymore like that. You can double tap things, and you can slide them like that. But remember how in Windows 8.1 you would drag down to close apps or to move them like that? That doesn't work right now. You can snap things left or right using the keyboard, of course. I haven't figured out how to do the quad snapping yet. It might be because my display is just not big enough to handle it, which would actually make sense. But yeah, you could switch around like that. You do have a menu up here which can drop down, and you can see that is where now you have app commands. So technically, if you're wondering, you still do have the charms bar here, but this is rumored to be going away at some point. So you can still access the app settings through that method there, or you can, if you're using a mouse, you can tap there and it brings up all those same little commands in a typical menu format. And so that's kind of an interesting decision. Certainly. And then hitting that button, of course, just goes back to this menu. And that's basically how it's going to run when you use the start screen method as opposed to the start menu method. Now, if you want to get back and you want to see the start menu, you can't really do it while in this mode. So if I hit this button, it's just going to keep switching back to there. So what you can do is, and you can see the new search bar there, you can type in navigation panel, and it's going to see taskbar navigation or navigation properties. Hit the navigation properties, start menu, and you want to use the start menu instead of the start screen and toggle that setting. And I'll do that in a moment. I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to basically tell me I need to sign out to re-enable that. So it doesn't do it dynamically. It's got to kind of basically reboot for a second, and we'll do that and we'll return in a second. Okay, everybody, we're back. The computer is rebooted, and now we're in the new desktop mode, which is definitely interesting. So here it is. When you hit the start menu now, there you go. It's a combination of the classic start menu along with your tiles on there. It is definitely a cool system, and you can use this without a mouse and keyboard. It is doable, although it can be a little bit odd, and obviously this is better for a desktop PC. But you can move all these elements around, so you can just drag and drop and they'll shift. You can right click on them and change their size. You can move them around, uninstall them, all that kind of stuff. You can also, of course, grab apps from the start menu here and you can right click and you can basically pin to start and it'll add it to that menu. So definitely a cool system, and it works fairly well. Now you have to decide if you want it this way or the other way, but that's gonna be up to you. Other than that though, you got your basic desktop, but there are two new things here. One I just showed you before was this new search bar. And this search bar is gonna be real interesting because it's gonna presumably change over the next couple months. You know, it's rumored to be getting Cortana, and you can bet that's where this will probably end up here. You can already see it's bringing in Bing trending topics. So I imagine this thing right here is going to really expand and be refined over the couple months. Next to it also is a new app switcher, which is actually really cool. So you have your different task views here, and you can see I have my different apps open, and I can just tap and switch between them. You can also, of course, do the Alt-Tab method and switch between apps that way. Some other smaller features in Windows 10 Technical Preview include File Explorer, which has some new icons in it. Obviously not a huge change here, but it is nice to see them tidying up the UI a little bit and making subtle changes throughout. File Explorer is also supposed to be a lot better for indexing and finding those files a lot more quickly. So we'll have to see exactly how much quicker that is, but it's always nice to have. Going back to the start screen here on Surface Pro 3, you can basically see all my apps, but now if I want to switch back to my apps, you may be familiar with the gesture where you swipe from the left screen. That used to bring up a list of apps over here on the left side, and then you can switch between them. Actually, use your thumb, or you can tap the X button to close them out. But watch how it changed now in Windows 10. When you swipe out, it's going to give you this new app picker. It's basically a task manager of what is currently running, and you can, of course, X them out and close them. Now, this is actually related to this button down here, which I'll show you once we go to the desktop mode with the start menu. But basically, that's what this is. It's an extension of the new app manager, which lets you manage between apps. And it's really good for desktop users. Down here, though, you have the new multiple desktop support. So, for instance, I have a clean desktop here, and now I could sort of switch between those and go to this desktop, which has my apps open. And so it's a neat system if you want to be clutter-free, you're working on a few projects. I'm sure you can use your imagination. You can also use the window key plus control and arrow, and you can switch between those. So far, I haven't had too many issues with bringing using modern apps. There are a few that just don't work. For instance, breaking news, I'll launch and it just sort of sits there. It doesn't actually bring any data. And some users have reported different behavior with different apps. I use Tweetium for Twitter, for instance, and I noticed it works actually very well, but when it pulls in files for if you want to add a photo to it, the file picker basically is changed and doesn't really work. So there are exceptions there, but I haven't had any stability issues with the Surface. It actually works very well. And if you have a desktop PC, I'd actually probably recommend this a little, more for a desktop PC. You can definitely do it on the Surface and do everything you were doing before, and it runs very well. It's very quick, and I haven't really had too many issues yet, but then again, we're only a couple hours in here, so definitely kind of hard to say. But the real cool thing about this is Microsoft is going to be updating the OS pretty dynamically. There's talks of once a week we'll be getting new updates as well as new features over the next couple months. And so that is something to look forward to if there are bugs or things that need to be improved. A lot of it's dependent upon you. And if you use this little app here, the Windows feedback, to give them that feedback and tell them what you want and what could be better. But there you go. Head to Windows Phone Central for more information and tell us what you think. Let us know if you've installed Windows 10 Technical Preview and what do you think about where Microsoft's going with this all. Take care, everybody.